Hello everybody, welcome back to Fanblade. A big thank you to everyone who watched and commented on the last video where I unboxed a frankly unhealthy number of bass guitars. I asked you which one you wanted to see me working on first. There was a lot of votes for the Explorer, there's a few votes for the P-Bass, but I saw more votes for this one than any other. It is, of course, the Photogenic Jazz bass. Or I should say jazz bass copy. I'm not allowed to call it a jazz bass because of copyrights and trademarks and lawyers and all that jazz. Bass. But it is what it is, and what it is dirty and in dire need of a setup. Finding out information about instruments like this can be a little bit of a dead end, because there was never any intention for this brand to be a guitar company with a rich history. It's literally just a name on a headstock of a generic J-bass copy. What information I have been able to find out is that this logo was used through the 90s, made in Korea. These days they're using a much more scripty font, and those instruments are made in China. That's fine. China's making some good stuff these days, just like Korea was making some excellent stuff in the 90s. There should be no stigma around it being a budget brand if they've used good quality hardware and good quality wood, which I'm happy to say they have. This is a flame maple neck. It's amazing to find a neck like that on an instrument like this, but here we are. This is also quarter sawn. It's a little bit difficult to see the grain going through there, but if you look at the end of the headstock, it's absolutely beautiful to see that grain just disappearing down the headstock like that. It's not perfectly quarter sawn, but it's certainly not flat sawn, and this is an expensive cut. This is an expensive neck to make. And the flame on the back of the neck. I mean, how many budget basses do you see with that? Not many, if any. The rest of it's very standard and very, very dirty. There's a lot of fingerprints and goodness knows what else on it. Pickguard screws are rusted, pole pieces are rusted, strings are rusted. I'm guessing there's a whole lot of corrosion probably inside the output jack as well. The bridge, nah. I'm not that impressed with this bridge. The base plate is really, really thin. It's only about 1.5 millimeters, and I have had a rummage around in the spares pile and found a bridge that's pretty much an identical hole pattern, identical size, except it's a 2.5 mil thick base plate. That's good. I'm going to use this base plate, but I'm going to use these saddles because the height adjustment screws in this one are so corroded that they won't turn. These saddles are dead. So use these saddles and this base plate, and that should make for a bridge which is, well, adequate, if not actually probably fairly good. So we'll dive in and start taking things apart. We'll probably find some fairly interesting things along the way. I've got high hopes for this one. I've just got this hunch that it's better than it has any right to be. This is my favourite test. How strong's the neck pocket? Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty tight. Excellent. Right, good start. Looks like we've got a number 4 and a little bit of a pencil scribble up there. Interesting to know that's there. Not a whole lot of use. It's got a little bit of a suntan, not as much as I was expecting, because this will be what the original colour of this finish was, and of course it's only darkened just a little bit, which may indicate that it's newer than I gave it credit for, because if it was 30 years old I'd expect that tan line to be a lot more vivid, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Fingerboard is, of course, not rosewood. I'm going to guess that it might be Jatoba, possibly Power Ferro. They will look about the same. It's very dry, so we'll give that a bit of oil later on. Frets look excellent. Like, it's almost as if this thing's never been played. Pickup mounted on springs. No foam anywhere. I wonder what's under that cover. Can I pop that off? Ooh, now that's big ceramic magnet, or is that's two ceramic magnets? I see a lot of wax in there. It's got a little bit of weight to it. The wiring's fairly standard. It's just a pickup comes in on that pot, which then daisy chains onto the pickup for this pot, which daisy chains onto the tone knob, which goes straight to the output, and of course a ground wire. I'll pull off a couple of these knobs and see if I can find out what the value of these pots are. 250k, exactly what I would expect to see on a bass like this, and what I would put in there myself. If I feel like it later, I do have a set of Disassembly Jazz pickups that I could drop in here, but yeah, we'll actually test these ones out first, because the size of the magnet in this one, yeah, just suggests to me that it might actually be not too bad. We'll see how we go. Now, someone did suggest changing the tuners, but I don't really see any need to. They're not worn. They're all turning very, very smoothly. There's very little slop in any of them. There's no rattles. They are, they're fine. They're absolutely fine. I think the frets need a bit of a polish, and the fingerboard obviously needs oiling, but apart from that, all this thing really needs is just a really, really good clean. I'm going to give everything a good polish with some Peak polishing clean compound. They're not sponsoring me, I just have a tube of this and it works really well. This thing should polish up pretty nicely. There we go. That is a nice shiny headstock and some nice shiny frets and a nicely oiled fretboard. Yeah, that's come up rather well. Yes, I like it. I like it a lot. Moving on. So, I've had it together for a day or so now. I've had a good play on the thing, and there are two problems I've got to solve. The first problem is that these frets have not been levelled. So there's quite a lot of buzzing and unevenness and rattling happening at odd places. So, got to level those out. The other problem's a little bit weirder. This has got a 10-inch radius on the fingerboard. The pole pieces of the pickups are dead flat. This means that the middle two strings are too far away and they are sounding quieter. Particularly noticeable on the D string for some reason. It just doesn't cut through anything. I've played this with the band, and that string in particular just got completely lost. So what I've got to solve that problem is a set of vintage DiMarzio's, and of course they have the adjustable pole pieces so that I can even up the string volumes. Problem solved. They'll look a little bit weird. I kind of do wish they were black, but you got to go with what you got. Incidentally, with these pickups, when you solo one, it doesn't hum or buzz or do anything. So we saw two magnets in there. I suspect these are dual coils. So they're humbucking. That's cool. These would actually go very well in a bass with a much flatter fingerboard, like a 14 or maybe even a 16, but they are not right for this bass. Whereas these ones will do just fine, thank you. And here it is. It is quite a bit heavier than I would prefer. It's just on 4.5 kg, which is kind of standard for a jazz bass. I used to have a made in Mexico Fender jazz bass, and that was 4.7, and that's why I used to have it. The neck is also quite a lot bigger than you would expect to find on a jazz bass. It's 41mm at the nut as opposed to 38. It's also quite a lot deeper depth-wise. This is a chonkster of a neck. This is a P-bass neck. It really shouldn't be on this body, and it may not be for much longer. We'll see what happens, but it is playing, and it's sounding pretty good as well. Mr. Drummer, if you please. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching me get this thing cleaned up and get it together. It's come up rather well, I think you'd agree. It certainly sounds the business. It's a little bit weird to play just because the neck is such a tree trunk, but we can change necks. I can do things to it, or I can just get a whole new neck. We'll see what happens in the future. But for now, it's just good to have a jazz bass in the arsenal. I'm not really much of a one for jazz basses. I'm kind of more of a P-bass guy. In fact, a lot more of a P-bass guy. Any bass player who wants to be versatile needs a jazz bass in their arsenal, and now I've got one, so that's good. Well, apart from that, yes, there's plenty more to come, so thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for subscribing, and I will see you very soon. Cheers.